What's up, Jose? You faking again?
How are we doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a little jet lagged, long weekend, but it was fun. How about you?
Me too. I didn't get until almost 1 o'clock in the morning last night. It was, but it was good. I slept plenty, ready to attack the day, the week. I'm excited. I'm all fired up from being at the Arnold.
Yeah, me too. Do you have anyone on your flight? I sat right next to Ron Harris on my flight.
Yeah, no, I didn't have anyone actually. I mean, there might have been, but nobody that I knew. It was because we went late. I had a seminar on Sunday to do at a gym, and I was there until like 3:30, 4 o'clock.
What was the seminar for?
It was for Doberman, Team Doberman. They just had a seminar at a local gym, and there was only a few of us, but it was fun. I got to see a lot of people. It was really cool. Is that I was waiting for my Uber, and a photographer walked in, and he looked familiar, but I'd never really met him before. And then he introduced himself, and he was like, "Hey, man, he's like, I'd love to get you a couple pictures of you." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not in shape by any means." I go, and I'm taking off in a few minutes. He's like, "Just anything, I just love to have you on my, in my camera, I'm like, I was really like, not really, dude. I didn't want to, but he was like, he goes, "It doesn't have to be anything. You don't have to take your shirt off. You don't have to do nothing." And anyway, his name was Anton Antipov, who was, he did 5 Olympias in men's physique. He's a big dude. He's in great shape still. He's from Belarus. He was waiting to shoot Terrence Ruffin. So in walks Terrence, and then him and I are talking. The guy's taking pictures of us just talking. And then I'm like, I got a good idea, I go, let's do a picture of us do like shaking hands like Arnold and Carl Weathers in Predator. And the guy loved it. He's like, "Oh man, this is awesome." And some of the pictures came out awesome. I was like, I love that pose you do where he does this, and he started doing it. So he's trying to teach me how to do it. I don't have any flexibility in my shoulders, so I'm like this. And he was like nice, and it was fun, man. And what a nice kid, and we had a blast. And some of the pictures came out awesome, even though I'm an old man. And it was kind of cool, the picture. He did a close-up picture of our hands, and it's just a really like iconic picture, of a, I'm not white, but I'm not black, but showing our hands together, it just like, it speaks volumes, especially in bodybuilding, because bodybuilding really has no racism. It's we all get along. It's it doesn't matter the race. It's like we all appreciate each other for what we put in, because we know how much goes into it. So it was really cool. And it was something that
nice guy too. Like he's one of these guys. I was just listening to Aceto talk about it last night. Of Aceto saw him in some show where he wasn't even remotely in the running of a first call out. He was probably like 160 pounds or something, but you still knew he had potential, right? You were like, "Oh, that kid could be good." But how many people do you say that about? The back of the lineup, where of how far he's come. Like even 3-4 years ago when he was starting to climb his way up, and you go like, he's little, but he looks great, Yeah. And now he's a force, he's in that talk every Arnold, every Olympia. And you can see, if you follow him, in that work ethic that he has, just, he doesn't let off. He stays on plan year round. Sorry, Rocky's going crazy here. People coming in the gym. Before we get into the contest, what were some other memorable moments of either people you ran into, or because you haven't been to one of these things in a little while?
No, it was funny. And I told you about it, how quickly in this industry things change. 5 years ago, if I was at a booth, it would take me forever to get from one point A to point B, just stopping talking to people. And today, I don't know if it's because I'm bald or but most of the people didn't even know me. I was with Guy at the Bolero booth, and Guy's still very active with his shtick with the beard and being a badass. And all these Gymshark kids are coming up to him. Oh, hey, that's Guy, Not a single soul knew who I was. Like, who's that old man there? It was hilarious. It was refreshing, to be honest with you. Because I was able to come and go as I pleased and get in and out and move throughout the expo rather quickly, But it was cool. It was getting to hang with Guy, getting to hang at Low Blinder's booth, the Outright Bar, and 015, and getting to meet his whole team and spending time with his family, and just seeing everyone. It wasn't nearly as huge as it usually is. I think people are still hesitant to come out in big packs like that. So it wasn't nearly what it was, but it was just about what I expected, which was good. One of the events that stuck out was obviously the slap fighting. I'm not sure they're going to have that again.
Did you go to that? I didn't go to it.
Well, it wasn't that I went to it. My booth was only a few aisles from the stage, and I was
waiting, given the size of those hands that you just waved around, if you were going to be a last minute entry, the dark horse to win the thing.
Yeah, well, maybe then I'd finally win something, But I wouldn't even do it because that's crazy. I think there's going to be a liability issue there somehow. There was also another liability issue. There was some like medieval fighting area where these guys had on chainmail and all types of armor, and they were legitimately hitting each other over the head with axes and swords. And there's a rule, I guess, the blade can't be less than 2 millimeters thick, so it's a little blunted. But my God, what the thing? There was blood bleeding everywhere, and oh my God, it was crazy.
What's crazy is, like, you and I are both UFC fans, and that stuff takes a lot of heat in football, due to concussions. Dude, the slap, at least like in football and MMA, there's like a counter skill, right? Like you can get defense so that you don't get hit and don't get concussed.
Yeah.
In the slap fighting, there's nothing. You have to just take it, right? Guys are getting knocked out left and right. That's clearly a concussion. I'm sure there's concussions in the medieval fighting thing, taking an axe to the head.
Oh God. I don't know if we'll see those two events again, but I would hope not. It's a little crazy.
Yeah, the slap fighting thing was, I don't know if that's because Warmer is not part of this anymore, right? It's a new team partnered with Arnold, is what I heard. And so you wonder if it's some new guys saying, hey, we got to get on this, Jake Paul, Logan Paul bandwagon. But I only watched a quick clip of it, of a guy getting knocked out, and Arnold didn't seem to be impressed or amused, or, he sort of seemed to be the, like, what did I sign up for? Like, I have, because, he's not even sitting out there for the bodybuilding stuff, right? Like, he normally in the past, he'd be front row, he'd be standing up, getting shots of people's routines. And from what I could see, at least, he was backstage. He came out to give the trophies. A few people he interviewed. After that, he's off to the side, but he was sitting there in a chair watching this thing, which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. He was in shock. You saw his face like, oh no. But yeah, we'll see where that goes. But, it was great. Otherwise, I didn't train at all. It was kind of good. Get a little rest and, just to kind of take it all in. I did cover the show for MD. I did the wrap-up video for them. I had incredible seats. I was a few seats behind you. And I saw with my own eyes what I think I saw. And, before I get into this, which is funny, in 2019, I covered the show for Maximum Muscle Report. Remember that? I was there. And my prediction was Brandon Curry was Bonac to win, and Brandon Curry won. And afterwards, I had to interview Brandon, And I said right to him, man, I'm sorry. I had Bonac winning, but, congratulations. You looked amazing. Is he, Brandon, he's like, oh, man, thanks. Don't worry about it. It is what it is. And once again, fast forward to 2022, I had Bonac winning and Brandon Curry wins. Either I don't know what the hell I'm looking at, or it's just a, they're judging off of different criteria. And what I mean by that is they're just going with or they were told to, I don't know, maybe judge more aesthetics, more of what Arnold's vision is for that physique. Yep. Now, it's easy to say that, but when you look back to the Olympia, Brandon Curry did beat Bonac at the Olympia. So on paper, he rightfully should beat him here. But this was a vastly different version of Bonac. And it was also a different version of Curry. He was slightly downsized from the Olympia. He was a little flatter. He looked dynamite. I mean, by no means do I think he should have been, third or fourth or something. I read that online. People are out of their minds. He's still got the best physique, the best flow and shape in bodybuilding. I just think that at some point, if your guy here comes down and gets worse, and there's a guy who's clearly improved and has more of that vision of what I consider to be lights out. He had that paper thin skin with detail and separation and brutal muscularity. I would have rewarded that. But, at the same time, I can understand what they're doing and what they're, and it does make a difference. I was slightly off from center. Had I been directly head on, maybe I would have seen a convincing difference in the shape if it was that convincing, maybe. But I'm a condition guy, and I take into account the effort and the work and the how difficult it is to come in balls on like Bonac did. I think this was the best version of him in many years. So yeah, that was it. You might have had a little better seat than I did. What is your?
So I was stage left. So I was really looking at him sideways, and the only time I got a good look was posing routines, like for the finals or pose down where they.
You weren't even in the middle two rows that were.
No, I was off to the side. Yeah, I was off to the side. So you probably had a better direct view. I was off to the side, which made it really.
I
did. I have like the initial impressions for prejudging, right? Because I was you weren't at prejudging, right?
No.
So at prejudging the night before, there were only a couple guys that when they came out, you went, oh shit, right? That like reaction. Yeah. Bonac was one of them where you go like, oh shit. But what I will tell you is like, I was texting you, and when he first came out in prejudging, maybe he just needed to flex a little bit more. But the initial impression was his legs are still down. They're better, but they're still down.
Yeah.
And then when I looked at pictures later that night, it might have been the angle that I was at. Shows you like what a difference that makes. When I looked at pictures, I was like, oh, his legs look great. But being their second row off to the side, that was my first reaction was he looks better than the Olympia, but not like the Bonac of several years ago. And then I saw pictures and I was like, that's not what I saw in person. I believe that obviously that's what he looked like, but the angle matters. And Brandon was immediately like, well, it's Brandon. He looks great, but he doesn't look like the Olympia, where arguably he could have, should have won. Yeah. And I was at that Olympia. So I had that burned in my head and I was like, oh, he doesn't look like that. So I was going to ask you, how much do you think either, you as a competitor who's been in this place of nailing it or being slightly off and talking to the judges or being a judge yourself, how much does that play of that initial reaction of Brandon's not at his best, he was better at the Olympia, and then Bonac going, oh shit, he's back, like this is the best he's looked in years, like for me, there was a reaction to that of you can't stop looking at Bonac because he brought something new. He brought something better. And every time I looked at Brandon, obviously he's amazing and we're nitpicking here, but I was like, he looked so much better at the Olympia. He looked bigger. He looked fuller. He looked more conditioned. You know, it was just more of everything. How much does that factor in, you think?
It factors in quite a bit. But I know from knowing Steve that he's an emotional robot. Like when it comes to bodybuilding and where some judges might get excited. Holy cow, Bonac looks unbelievable. Steve will say, no, this is the two we're going to look at. You know, he clearly separated them from the pack and then said, this is what we're doing. And I know from experience that, you know, I lost in 2016 to a guy I dominated. I was bigger, harder, had more muscle in every shot, but I have a shorter, thicker midsection. And I lost to a guy who had a smaller midsection. And that might be what it came down to. You know, Bonac was bigger, was harder, was more gnarly, was more everything, but he had a midsection. And then once Arnold came out and made that statement about midsections and bellies and all this, you know, it might be seared in the back of their minds, the judges, or it may have been told to them, you know, I want you to take that into account. You know, this is my show and this is how I want it looked at.
So one of the things, I don't know if it was you talking about it or Aceto, that if you go pose by pose on paper, that's where, like, the overall reaction to me was, oh, Bonac wins it, just as a whole, right? Yep. Seeing the two of them, there was just an excitement of, holy shit, he looks crazy. But then I started thinking, if you go pose by pose, it's like, you know, front lat spread, you give Brandon. Front double, although Bonac actually looked pretty good in it, but like typically you would think Brandon wins that. Mm-hmm. Back lat spread, Brandon wins. Side tricep, Brandon wins. You know, and then side chest, maybe you give that to Bonac. Back double, you could argue Bonac, especially from the legs.
Yeah.
Most muscular, probably Bonac, but you know, you could argue, like, they're arguable. Like, I think there's some that Brandon definitely wins, and then the others is an apple and orange. You know, right. I don't know that there were shots where Bonac wiped the floor with Brandon on it, you know, because Brandon's structure was just better in some of these poses. Yeah. So you think it came down to that for the judges?
Well, the two poses I think Bonac handily won were the side chest and the most muscular. They were the two densest with the most detail shots where he really overwhelmed them. Front double, as you said, was very close because Brandon's so pretty and Bonac was so freaky. And then I just started, my eyes wouldn't go away from Bonac's legs and his muscularity. So even in the front lat spread, which I normally would give to Brandon no matter what, I was starting to lean towards Bonac. Like, wow, he looks great there. It's just so much muscle. And again, in the rear lat spread, I was like, Bonac's peeled, huge glutes, hams, craziness, calves. So he won from the lower body. And then you look at detail on the back and muscle thickness. Yeah, Brandon's wider with a better taper, but man, and to answer that question, no, you know, you would think theoretically, if this guy wins more poses, he wins the show. And sometimes that's how it goes. But no, it doesn't always, because there's always that freak factor of what Bonac brought, which were clean lines and you know, clear separation and just so impressive. In my mind, I would have leaned towards Bonac. But that, again, is why you have a guy like Steve to set people straight and say, this is, you know, I don't think, obviously Steve didn't vote for the 7 judges. He put them in the spot to where they're judged, and those judges individually made their own choices. Yep. So, you know, it could be anything. It could be a number of things. The people on that judging panel just lean towards more a aesthetic physique versus a monster? Do they like him? It's weird, but it's human. It's human that human error. When you see Brandon talk and his wife and his kids and his family and such a gentleman, and then most judges don't really know who Bonac is. They know he's a freak for the last however many years, 10 years now. But they don't know much about him. So there's not a lot of feeling, which feeling shouldn't take any role in judging anyway.
When it's flip a coin close.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that, unfortunately.
So here's a random question for you. I'm curious of your take. So Nick Walker, obviously the Arnold happened, what was it, September last year? October, whatever it was. Very recently. How do you think the Nick Walker that won the Arnold last year would have done in this show?
I think he would have won.
Really?
Yeah, I do, because oddly enough, he has a bit more aesthetics than Bonac. I don't know how to say that, but he does in his front double. And he's bigger. He's, an inch taller than Bonac. He's got to be 25 pounds heavier than Bonac. He's just as detailed.
What helps him so much, I think, in my opinion, is how detailed his abs are. Yeah. And there's the guys in the top 5. I mean, Brandon excluded, right? Like Bonac doesn't really have detailed abs. Kuklo really doesn't. They're kind of washed out. Justin was very washed out. Samson has a good midsection, right? But that was kind of missing. And when I think of Nick now, man, his midsection, what 2 years ago was a major weakness for him. Just a distended stomach is now a strength.
Yeah. Well, that just shows if you work on it hard enough, it can go from the reason you lose to the reason you win.
Yep.
And it's such warfare today. These guys are so big that if you do have a good midsection, it's gonna push you forward a lot. Speaking of Samson Dowd, that guy was incredible. I was very impressed with him in person. Just standing there relaxed, he looked better than anyone in the whole show.
Yep.
He had the midsection, the legs were incredible. He just needs more back width, more back thickness. And that's it. He's got good arms, great legs, unbelievable midsection, great detail, conditioning, presentation. He's got it all. If he adds a little more back thickness, he will be breaking hearts. I mean, he could go far to say he could win this show.
What a huge jump up for him, right? Because he's a guy that isn't very well known, not being in this country, obviously being signed to Fuad's company, the Hostile Supplements, has put him on the map a little bit. And then he won a show last year after doing so many. Like he sort of got known for the guy that did all of these shows and got stuck in a hotel. Where was he, in Korea or something?
Yes.
Right. Because of COVID things, he had to isolate himself in a hotel, and he may not. So people sort of, was actually a great thing. You got to see this personal side of him, like you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Brandon. But he wasn't a guy competing in this country. So to come here, I don't know if this is his first time competing in the US, but he's obviously not very well known here. This is a huge splash for him.
Yeah. It shows resilience. And he's a hard worker, and clearly, because you don't have that physique without that. A funny thing, you mentioned Fuad Hostile. Another funny thing happened. I was at my booth and I seen Paul Lazan walking by, and I was like, "Hey, Paul." He's like, "Hey, Jose." He came over to me, and we'd never met in person. And what a nice guy. He was hilarious.
I walked by him the night of finals. He's bigger than I thought. He was a pretty big guy.
He was ripped.
Yeah.
He was in great condition, great shape. He's got to be my age, I would say, maybe older. But he was in unbelievable shape. What a nice guy. He stayed and talked to me for 10, 15 minutes. We took a couple pictures, and just a funny guy. That was a funny moment of the weekend.
Man, could you believe one of the standouts of just people I saw walking around was how big Nick Walker was?
Yeah.
Just absolutely monstrous.
A lot of people couldn't make heads or tails of the guy. He's he's legitimately a human cartoon.
Yeah.
Like it looks funny, you know, especially how wide and big his shoulders are. And he was wearing a sleeveless shirt.
Yeah.
He looked like a balloon, like, you know, those balloons they're like this, you know. He's ridiculous. And everywhere he went,
there's lots of guys that are big. Like the Saturday, the day of finals, I had gone to the pros gym, the old powerhouse, and Regan was there, and I got to go up and talk to him briefly. And obviously Regan's a big kid, like he's but it wasn't Nick Walker big.
No, there's very few that are Nick Walker big.
Yeah.
No, Nick is a legit superstar. And you know, he went to the bathroom to take a piss. There was a line out the door of the bathroom. They weren't going to piss. They were following him around. Everywhere he went, a line would form. And it was funny. He and I are talking for a few minutes. And there's a girl standing next to me with her cell phone like this. And wouldn't say anything. And I'm like, hey, do you want a picture with him? And then he's about to walk away. I'm like, Nick, come here. I'm like, take a picture with this girl. They were fangirling all over the place.
Good for him. Good for him. It's a different era, right? Like these podcasts, like you mentioned, Guy, is kind of the new famous. Obviously, you know, Nick deserves everything coming to him because he's incredible. He's a winning bodybuilder, but he's also doing well playing the game of social.
Well, as does Guy. You know, Guy works hard at his marketing himself, and however funny it might be to me, you know, because I know the real Guy. And he's not a roughneck, you know, mean,
wood,
you know. But I love Guy, and he's worked hard to be where he's at. So that's what it takes, you know. Today's age, that's what you got to be. You know, I don't even know how to do what we're doing. That's why everyone's like, "When are you going to do a podcast?" I'm like, "I don't know. Whatever the fuck Nate does it." I'm like, I don't know how to do it. Yeah. So yeah, it was good. Let's talk about Justin Rodriguez a little bit.
Yes.
He ended up in 5th place.
Do you think he fell? So he was the other guy prejudging when I was there. When he walked out, I went, holy shit. His initial, when he came out, he was so much bigger that's for my first time seeing him in person, so much bigger than I expected. And I think he fell off a little bit for finals.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts?
I think he runs into a similar thing that Kuklo ran into, where they have to decide one way or the other, either balloon blown up full or shredded, diced, and a bit smaller, a little flatter. Kuklo chose the flatter side, which, you know, he was noticeably smaller in certain areas, but absolutely the best condition of his career. And it paid off. You know, he placed 3rd. And then you had Justin, who went the other way, and it didn't pay off. You know, had Justin come in as dry as Kuklo, I'm sure his legs would have suffered, because that was always the knock on him. His legs don't really have a sweep. Well, he walked out and his legs were huge.
Yeah. Huge.
And it initially looked great. But, you know, as he posed, you started to notice he was spilling, even in prejudging, a little bit. And then for finals, it was pretty evident that he wasn't going to be in the running for, you know, top 3 spot. And I agreed with that call for sure. As much as I like Justin's physique, and as much as I think he could have placed higher if he were a bit drier, he ended up in the right spot. No way would I put him in front of Samson's conditioning, or in Samson's legs, and, you know, or Kuklo's conditioning, you know. So I think they made the right call there. Big fan of Steve, always have been. He was crazy diced, really paper thin skin, and he did, you know, precisely what they asked him to do, which is, you know, come in a little tighter. It's a tough call there, you know, do I come in big? And then if you just try to come in a little drier, you know, you lose that illusion of big, huge. I think had Steve come in exactly the way he did in the last Arnold, just in October, he would have probably ended up in the same spot, 3rd place. He wasn't gonna leapfrog Brandon or Bonac. Yes. So, either way, it was a great experiment. I think if he comes to Boston this week, even 3-4 pounds heavier, a little bit fuller, he's gonna obliterate the show.
Yeah.
Although
I don't know if this is just a rumor. Ron was talking to Bonac, and Bonac was flirting with the idea of doing the Boston Pro, of staying here a little longer, which would be incredible. But he hadn't decided, and he didn't know if he was going to go back. He was sort of, I'm going to take a couple days and see how I feel. Do I want to stay here and do another show and win whatever the prize money is, which they haven't announced. But I agree. If Bonac doesn't do it, which as of right now, I guess he's not, it's probably Steve's show to lose.
Yeah, you would think.
Yep.
We should have put together a little collection to pay for Bonac's flight and hotel. Right? Bring him in. Steve would be like, "What the fuck you doing?"
He can stay in your shithole house.
Yeah. Thanks. It would be interesting. Who else do we got to cover? We got to cover Brett.
Yeah.
Brett Wilkin, who I feel bad for because he was a little upset, a little disappointed, of course. But I think whenever expectations are set that high, and because a lot of these kids that are online and doing podcasts or talking and posting, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I don't know how many times I heard Brett's going to win. Brett's going to, I had him top 2 in my predictions. I said, looking back, it was an idiot, but I was assuming that Bonac was going to continue that slide where he was, what was he? 5th or 6th at the Olympics? 6th at the Olympics.
6th, yeah.
All right. So I would have assumed that.
In any photos that he put out too, he didn't look any better. It shows you the power of social media, right? Because Brett's photos are like worthy to be framed. They remind me like the black and white shots of his most muscular.
Yeah.
Lights out. And what Bonac's putting out is like shitty lighting with somebody's cell phone, and his legs look downsized. Like he wasn't doing himself any favors for Bonac with his post leading into the show.
It wasn't until I think Thursday they put out a picture with Chad Nichols and his son, and his arms looked 35 inches around. It was crazy. Then I was like, ooh, he's really super full. Now let's see if he's in shape. And he was. So, that version of Bonac, no, Brett's not touching that for quite some time, I don't think. But yeah, I think he did good. It was a different look, and you got to kind of experiment until you find out what works for you. And he's still so early into his career that, he can afford to do that. He'll come back better. I think he looked outstanding. His upper body was as freaky as anyone.
Was he just too full? Did he just spill over? Is that what happened?
It looked that way to me. I haven't spoke to him. I haven't heard him or Matt talk about it. But that would be my guess, them trying to come in bigger.
I think I saw last night, he's coming on to Boston. They decided to do it.
Oh, good.
Which kind of makes sense, right? Take another crack at it. If Matt's disappointed that he screwed up the peak, you get a shot 1 week later to try and fix it.
Yeah, and he comes in really dry, it'll make a difference. Yep. That's the thing. Sometimes you bamboozle yourself. You looked at him a couple weeks out, he's already got crazy striated glutes, his shoulders, pecs, everything's striated, his back is dry. So your mind is telling you he's ready, but he wasn't sucked out. And sometimes you got to get sucked out before you fill up, or you're just going to spill. And I think that's what happened. I just don't think his condition was deep down as dirty, dry as it should have been before he carved up. He carved up an already full body. And that's what you saw on stage.
Gotcha. Okay.
And, with his upper body being so big and full, it made it look as though his legs got worse rather than getting better. And they got better. Yeah. The work he put in, his legs definitely got bigger. He just needs to be stupid dry again like he was in Chicago. and he may have jumped up a spot. He
Yep.
may have been able to beat that version of Justin.
Yep.
And who knows? He may. I think his upper body's thicker and wackier than Samson. So you never know. If he hit it right, he's capable.
Yeah, he wasn't going to beat Brandon or Bonac, but he might have even been able to battle a little bit with Steve at his all-time best peak. Yep.
Yeah.
What about what does Regan need to do? Regan just definitely got lost in the mix here. And it's tough because I think what Milos said, he overcarbed him, right? That was for finals. He overcarbed him.
Well, more to that, he had COVID.
Yeah, right.
Milos gave him COVID in December.
Right.
He'd been fighting a lot of shit for the last few months. So that's by no means indicative of what Regan is capable of. That said, he's still really young, got such a frame. He's 8 years younger than Kuklo with a very similar structure. And it took Kuklo this long to really figure it out and nail it. And I think he just needs more time. I'm not sure that even his driest version, like from the Legion show, where he placed second to Clarita.
Yep.
I'm not sure that version would have even done much better here because he's not as thick as Brett, right, or any of the guys after Brett. If he had the same condition he had at the Legion, maybe he would have been able to jump one of them, but it wouldn't have made much a difference.
Right.
I just think he needs more time. He's gonna get better. There's no doubt. He works as hard as anyone, but it's just time. That's a lot of real estate to fill up. So there's nearly nothing he can do at this point. You just keep chugging along, and all of a sudden he'll come out looking like Cedric.
Right.
But that's gonna take. Cedric wasn't Cedric until he was like 34 years old, and Regan's 27. So he needs time.
Yeah. And I guess we could transition quickly to classic physique, right? A good example of that is Terrence. We've watched him over the last 5 years just transform from putting in the work and put on, I don't even know, easily 20, 30 pounds of muscle, I'd assume, right?
Well, it looks that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think he turned pro as a middleweight, a lightweight or a welterweight. He probably only put on 10 pounds of stage muscle, to 10 to 12 pounds. Because I don't know what the cutoff is for his height. He can't be more than 5'5". So the cutoff has got to be around 170, 172, 175. But it's the maturity. That's what makes the difference.
Yeah.
And on his tiny, tiny bone structure, he looks unbelievable. He really does. As much as I was impressed with Ramon, and that was a tough call, I think, they made the right call, I guess. You could certainly make an argument for Ramon, but you can't argue. You can't really argue with Terrence being a winner. That guy's unreal.
It's amazing, being there for prejudging in finals, how much Terrence's presentation. Obviously, he's the best poser in that division.
In any division.
Yeah, and just his confidence. It's kind of like when at the Olympia and you see Bumstead come out. He looks like a winner. He's carrying. You and I have talked about that in my own competing of, you got to believe it. You got to show it. Terrence shows it when he's out there, just how he sets up every pose. And I saw with Ramon, there was just a young kid up there that was so excited to be there.
Yeah.
You could see him sweating at some points. You could see him like shaking on some poses. There's that little bit that, I wouldn't have been aware of had I not been around you so long and talking about posing and stage presence. Yeah. That to me, in some shots, I preferred Ramon's physique in a lot of shots. Yeah. I mean, being there in person with the height difference and the weight difference, Ramon overpowered him. in terms of just what you see two guys in person. Terrence is tiny in person. We both, run into him.
Yeah.
But the overall, how Terrence carries himself and sets up every pose, and he's never off in a pose. Some guys, you got to see him hit it and you're like, oh, they let off on the legs, or they lost their balance, or, there's some sort of jitteriness or nerves. Never for Terrence. He practices this stuff so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And it shows. And that's definitely what won it for him. It's funny you mentioned that during prejudging, I was texting back and forth with Chris Aceto, and who coaches Ramon, and he said that exact thing. He said, he's too excited right now. He's too excited. He was moving around, fidgeting, doing the side chest. Sometimes you try too hard and the pose starts to look worse, not better.
Yeah, you've said that, right? Like for front double, a front lat, when you start trying hard and you're starting to squeeze, you think you're giving that extra little bit of detail, you constrict yourself and you look smaller.
Exactly. And it happens all the time. The other guy was Breon. Breon looked incredible. He was incredible. And he's just in a lineup with guys that are all catching him,
Yeah.
I don't think he's gone backwards whatsoever.
Yep.
I think the entire division has caught up, and he kind of set the tone for condition, and they're all chasing him, and he continues to bring it. I don't know anything else you can say about him. He was unbelievable, and he just ended up in third. That's
fourth.
In fourth. I'm sorry.
Urs beat him.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And it doesn't surprise me. Urs is another freak. How big is he in person?
So much
bigger. Like Dennis Wolf,
Yeah, crazy, because he looks like a guy in photos. He looks like such a young kid, and I don't think he's anywhere near his weight cap. I think he still has some room to grow, because he looks like one of the, compared to Bumstead, right? He looks smaller on stage, but in person, man, he was big.
Yes. He's big. He got a lot of muscle, a lot of, muscle.
The tiniest waist. I just read an interview where on stage he has a 27-inch waist.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He looked it. He's coming to Boston.
Yep.
Yeah. He texted me the other day, and he gets in on Tuesday. So we'll bring him down to the gym hub.
Yeah.
And get him in there dancing around. We'll see if we can get him to break dance.
We'll put him in one of the training rooms. That's the great thing. I speaking briefly about the gym and everybody coming here is like, obviously this whole gym is a dream come true. It's any fan of bodybuilding's dream to have a gym, and to have been able to do it in the manner that I did it with a ton of help from you, of building my dream gym, of handpicking each piece of equipment, and the kids that I see coming in here. I was showing you the other day, you get these young 19-year-old girls who have a little weightlifting club, and they're here motivating each other. And the environment's been incredible, especially seeing the young kids get into it. But man, this is the icing on the cake for the bodybuilding fan that I am, to have a gym that's 5 minutes away from a pro show. That's like the only logical choice for, these people to go to, both, in the equipment selection and the proximity to the event. So to have these people in here, man, you'll have to make sure I don't fangirl too much.
Yeah, you will. Don't worry about it. You'll have 1,000 pictures with them all.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone listening, we're going to get this out immediately. The address is 27 School Street, correct?
Yes.
And it's a 5-minute Uber from the host hotel.
Yes. Yep. So the hotel is the Sheridan, which is over by like the Prudential Mall. And we're like downtown Crossing, Financial District, Government Center. We're right next to the original Old City Hall, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, Scholars Restaurant, right in downtown. You can walk it on a nice day. Like today's a nice day out. I could probably walk it in 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, they likely won't.
Yeah, no, they won't. Yeah, but easily a 5-minute Uber. It's right down the street.
Good. I was talking to Carla Salati, my friend of 25 years plus now. She's the head girl of Protan. She'll be working the show. I'm going to meet her on Friday for lunch or something. So I'll bring her by,
Awesome.
and she can, talk to anyone that's wondering where to go if they need to get a pump or whatever.
Yep. Pump, photo shoot. That's the nice thing is, being a private gym is I can control the flow. It's one of the things we set out for is we set a capacity and you make reservations and book by the hour. So we make sure there's never more than 20 people in the gym, and set this cap so you can have a good workout. So, I was texting with Milos this morning, just saying, let me know when you guys are in town because I can block off times. If Milos is going to do his giant set thing, I'll make sure there's not 20 people in the gym. So he, let him and Regan and Samson do their thing. This isn't about making money for me. I'm not trying to do the old powerhouse thing at the Arnold and pack in 1,000 people, and rake in the cash. It's the bodybuilding fan in me that's like, let me share this awesome gym.
You want to show some hospitality and help people that you would wish them to help you in that situation.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun. And, you have those 3 private training rooms where people can go over their posing routines. And, it should be a great opportunity for people. So hopefully some of it will get out. Maybe you put that on the thumbnail. Boston Pro training.
I'll put the address there too. Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking, so the Boston Pro, I have the list. I can probably screen share. Figure out how to do this. Okay, let me see. So let me know if you can see this, Jose. Can you see this?
I can.
All right, cool. So let's see. So this, I'm sure, is going to change drastically because Urs isn't on this list. I think he just added. So we got Regan, Phil Kadar, obviously our hometown boy, Nate Speer, Steve Kuklo,
Doug Frucci,
Justin Mackey, up and coming guy. Samson's on it. Fabio, who did the Arnold. Oh, look, they got a picture of Bonac without his name.
Oh,
so maybe he is in. That's a game.
You just got him listed as this guy.
Yeah, some jacked black guy here. That's a tease. So hey, breaking news right here. We officially broke it with the.
There we go. Bonac's pitcher will be at the Boston.
Right. So with this, knowing what we saw at the Arnold and also knowing the adjustments they can and hopefully will make, how do you see the top 5 playing out?
The top 5 will definitely be Bonac, Samson, Justin, Kuklo. Why isn't Kuklo on there?
He is.
Yeah, right there. Go up. Samson, Justin, Bonac. Kuklo.
So what's your guess in order? So I'm going to assume Bonac wins, right?
Oh, you would assume so, yes.
Yeah. Then who do you think takes second? Do you have Kuklo? Do you have Justin? Do you have Samson? Because it's probably going to be one of those 3.
You know what? There's this guy, if you move up, Eslam Mohammed.
Yep.
He is completely insane. He was in, I think, Egypt. Is that the show Regan won?
I think so.
Yeah, this guy was nuts. Regan beat him. So I'm going to put him in the top 5, this Mohammed guy. And I don't know that with traveling and Regan already not feeling well, I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped out of it or if he just does it to see his fans and stick to his commitment.
Right.
But I don't know that we're going to see a much improved version of Regan. And if that's the case, I could see this Mohammed guy definitely in the top 5.
Okay.
And then you would have Nate Speer. Nate and Doug Frucci are both condition guys. Mm-hmm. Doug's huge, like probably, I don't know, 6'1", 270. Like he's a big dude. And Nate's going to be around 245 to 250 himself, right?
I think so, right? He's right around there. Yeah.
Yeah. Justin Mackey's kind of a shape guy. He's not really big yet. I don't know that he's brought his condition yet. I think Nick Walker's his coach. Isn't that true? Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
it
right.
is.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll see. That'll be interesting to see if Nick, being his coach, is able to give him a little mutant sauce. See if makes him more mutant-like. But yeah, top
We'll
five.
see
I'm
if
going to
he.
say.
I have a buddy I bought a lot of gym equipment from for this gym who is good friends with Justin. So he was going to pass on to Justin to come train here as well while he's in town.
Good. Yeah, that's a pretty blatant. I don't know if sriracha. It tastes good though. Fabio Rosende, we just saw him at the Arnold. He's a big guy, could be much tighter. His legs look really small compared to his upper body. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's going to get better, but I don't see him, cracking into the top 5 here. Yeah, that's it. Bonik, Samson, Justin, Kuklo,
yep.
Aslam Muhammad.
That's top 5. Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Now, I think classic, let's see, I think they'll have classic done. It's men's physique. We'll skip that. So I don't know a lot of these guys, obviously. So we have Urs is doing it. So Darwin isn't. I grabbed him at finals and said, hey, you come into Boston? He said, no. Let's see, they got Urs picture here too, added last minute. They didn't have their
Breon.
Yep. So Breon and Urs. You think that's going to play out the same way? Urs 1, Breon 2, or do you think Breon can come back?
You're just excited to see Tony's dong.
Who? Antonio.
Antonio Cummings. Yeah, I would see 1 and 2 as of right now.
We got like a porn star cast of names over here.
Yeah, Tony's dong. Antonio is Cummings. Scroll up a little. I want to see. Yeah. Hold on.
Fine.
So there's a guy who's not on this list from Alabama that I know. You met him. We were posing with him in the posing room at National.
Yes. Yep.
He's a freak.
Yep.
I trained with him, and he is absurd. He could do well if he's shredded, but we'll see. I mean, between Breon and Urs setting the tone for conditioning,
yeah,
it'll be tough if you're not crazy conditioned.
This is a tough lineup. You got a lot of guys here who I don't know very well. I'm sure they're great.
Bartley Weaver.
I do. Okay.
Dream Weaver. Remember we down in Tennessee, we met him.
Oh, was that the carbon culture thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a good guy. It's funny. Yeah.
But, so I think that's about it. I think fitness. So Missy Truscott, that's probably her show to take.
Is Ariel Kadar coming to Boston?
She's not on here. So it doesn't look like it yet. Figure, obviously, let's see. I don't really know. I was going to say wellness is the one I was looking to get to. So we got bikini. You'd have to assume Maureen Blanquisco is going to take it. She just took second.
Oh, she's coming?
Yep. She took second to Laura Lee.
Oh, good.
Can we get her in my gym? You make a couple phone calls, Jose?
Well, Christine would have a heart attack. Yeah, I don't even know who where she's from or anything.
I don't know much about her. And then wellness. Obviously Yarishna is the biggest name.
Yarishna.
Do you think she'll be able to do anything within this next week to tighten up from the Arnold?
Yeah, I don't think she was that far off, but I think I think her glutes were a little soft.
Yeah.
It just, the girl that won was just outstanding from every angle and didn't have too much of anything. I think in a week, Yarishna could improve significantly.
And I mean, she has to have one of the best structures in this show. I don't know who this girl is. They just added her.
Yes, she's. I think that's William Bonac.
But you have to assume, Rishna has to be the favorite in terms of structure. Obviously, she just has to come in tighter than the Arnold. I'm not familiar with any of these other women here, but yeah. So it's obviously, and people are still being added. If they ended up putting out what the prize money is, they'd probably get some more people jumping in real quick if it was something significant. So we'll see. But
all I know is they're giving away a truck.
Yep. That Bonac will end up taking. Maybe you can work a deal. He doesn't want to have to ship that shit out of the country. So maybe you can give him like 20 grand for it and keep his truck.
Yeah, he's got to pay like a lottery tax on it.
Yep.
And then, I mean, the truck's probably 40 grand.
Yep.
By the time he pays the tax and sells it to someone or something, he'll probably get 25 grand or something.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yep. It's a nice little bonus. And you hope, I saw another thing. All of the winners are getting like, I haven't heard of the watch company, but it was like a $30,000 diamond covered watch. It was like a no name brand. I love watches. So it wasn't like a Rolex or
all the winners or all the competitors? All
the winners. Okay. The winners of each division. They had a men's watch and a women's watch, and they claimed the value of it was a $30,000 watch. But all the winners. It's the men's for the truck, but I'm still curious to find out the cash prizes, because you're giving away a $40,000-$50,000 truck and a $30,000 watch. You'd hope they're getting more than $5 grand, for cash.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I would guess that the first place men's would be 20 grand.
Okay.
Second, probably 12, 15.
Yeah.
Third, 10, something like that.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, of course. But what's New York Pro? 10?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not as much.
Right.
But this guy's trying to come out and make a splash. So
for sure.
Show me the money.
So I'll let you go, Jose. I know you got to go get to work soon, but
right, buddy.
We'll hopefully have a lot of cool content for the channel coming up. I'll put this out right away. And hopefully with the guys visiting this week who have said they've stopped by, a lot of big names, we can get some content, film some workouts, whether we're training with them or we just film them training in the gym. Hopefully get some really cool, unique content out there.
Yeah. Make sure you put in the description the address and any number or email they can reach out to you at.
Yep. Nice. And this here will do. Figuring out how to where are you? I don't even know what I'm doing here.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to close out the screen share. There you go. Can you see me?
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I'm like 10% better with technology than you. We can just barely function here.
I see William Bonac, but not his name.
Right. All right, Jose. Thanks for the
recap,
and I'll see you in the gym this week. We'll get some cool content.
All right, you got it.
Bye.